Hello everybody, Rybread here, and today we will be ranking the items from the Survivors of the Void DLC in Risk of Rain 2. How this tier list is going to work is we are ranking these based on their effectiveness in Eclipse 8. That's the main way I play this game. Obviously, if I rank something lower because of its usefulness in Eclipse, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad item in other parts of the game. But if we are just doing the act of going into Eclipse 8, doing a run to go and kill mithrix to get the win, that is how I am judging the rank of these items. Before we get started, I would also like to welcome you guys to subscribe to the channel. We are growing at a pretty decent pace here with Alloy Collective coming up. It'll be awesome to grow the community. If you want to see coverage for Alloy Collective and all future Risk of Rain updates, be sure to subscribe and enjoy the content. Hey guys, real quick before we get underway, I made a mistake when I filmed this. I filmed all these tier lists together and I accidentally had the roll of pennies put in the base game video, so it is in the wrong video. So I will be putting that section here, so that's why it's going to have a bunch of items that don't really relate to this video in this next clip. But also, if you want to see that tier list, I will link it in the cards above. So yeah, enjoy. Up next, we got roll of pennies. This one I'm really kind of in between C and insta scrap. I'm gonna put it instant scrap, but there is usefulness for this, at least in early game. What this item does is when you get hit or when you take damage, you earn money. Like I said before when we were talking about medkit, why would you pick up an item that incentivizes you for getting hit? But when you eventually do get hit, at least it benefits you. It's an okay item to have in the early game because when your gold is reduced in Eclipse, when your gold earnings are reduced by whatever the percentage is, it's like 20%. The early game trying to get money to buy the chest and move along your run in the first couple of stages can be hard. But I also don't recommend just standing there with this item and waiting for a beetle to headbutt you so you can get some cash to go buy a chest. You're better off just killing it and moving along. It's just not worth it. Obviously there's some funky synergies with some equipment that you can do with this, but again, at the end of the day, it requires you to get hit, take damage for it to proc, so I don't recommend it. All right, starting off this tier list, we have the Delicate Watch. The Delicate Watch will go into we'll put it in S tier. Delicate Watch gives you a flat 20% damage increase for all of your attacks. The only catch is if your health bar goes below 25%, the watch breaks, your entire stack of watch breaks, so you have more than one. It's not just one watch that you lose all of them, and you lose the item for good. It cannot be scrapped, it cannot be brought back, you lose it. So it's kind of a catch-22. It's a really good damage boost. It stacks linearly. 20% per stack is just a crazy amount of damage, and it can get out of hand very quickly, so you always want to be picking these up. Personally, I'm always gonna pick up a watch, but if there's an option, like if I see it in a multi-shop and I already have a couple, I will start to avoid it and go for other things. The reason being, it's more of a mental thing for me. I don't like my entire run, at least the damage part of it, hinging on watches, because if they break, I'm in trouble. Like, the run just may be over because I lost a significant portion of my damage, so therefore it's probably going to be a miserable time for me. Again, if it comes off a chest, I'm always going to pick it up. I will never scrap these. So yes, pretty easy S tier, 20% flat damage boost. It's pretty good, so that's why it is in that tier. Moving on, we have the Mocha. I'm going to put Mocha in B tier. So Mocha is an attack and movement speed item. Mocha gives you a 5% boost in both movement speed and attack speed. This is good for rounding out your build. It's in B tier because it's not very impactful until you get a decent stack going. You're better off going for goat hoofs or soldier syringes because those have twice the effectiveness in movement speed and attack speed respectively. It's not a bad thing to get if you're really struggling to find movement speed and attack speed items. It is a good item to get if you see a printer late game and like you have no mobility I would recommend going into this just because like getting like a handful of them is going to take you a long way. It's going to help you out a whole lot. So it's in B tier mainly because like a single one is not gonna really do much for you, but it is still a very good item, so B tier. All right, then up next we have the Opal. I'm a little bit torn on this. It's between A and S tier. This is a very good item. I think I will be putting this in A tier. So Opal grants you a little barrier that when hit it does go away, but it gives you 100 armor increase while out of danger. So this is very good for just damage mitigation. It's a very good way to, if you find yourself in a situation that you're not expecting, like say Lemurian spawns behind you, or somebody, or like a sniper or a crab or something takes a shot at you and hits you, that first shot is not going to be a kill shot. This will protect you from that as long as you have the Opal aura around you. It's gonna save you. It's very good in Eclipse because it allows you to react to a situation and allow you to get out of there without taking too much damage. Sometimes you just get hit and sometimes you're not expecting it, and it really sucks if it's a big hit because then, oh my god, I've lost a good portion of my health bar to the Eclipse 8 modifier. This is gonna usually kind of then snowball. Opal allows you to get hit and react to the situation that you're put in, so that's why it's a very strong item. A tier. After that, we have Elixir, the power elixir. The elixir, I'm gonna put this in A tier as well. The elixir is just the way to save your watches, essentially. Once your health bar hits below 25%, it consumes the elixir, healing you for 75% of your maximum health. So it's kind of a get out of jail free card for taking a lot of damage. Again, it does save your watches. If you have a watch and an elixir, it will consume the elixir first before breaking your watch, so you will be a-okay if that happens if you have both of these in your inventory. So it's just, once again, a very good oh crap item. I got hit, I got put in a really bad situation, so this is a way to save it. Not too much more to say with that. It's a solid A tier item. It's going to be your savior in a lot of runs, so A tier. Moving into the green items, we start with Hunter's Harpoon, and this is going to be an instant scrap. I hate Hunter's Harpoon. It is probably one of my, if not my least favorite green item in the entire game. Hunter's Harpoon effect is killing an enemy increases movement speed by 125%, fading over 1 second. That duration increases by half a second per stack of Hunter's Harpoon. Unless if you're constantly mobbing, this is probably one of the most disorienting items in the game, because nothing feels worse than constantly speeding up for a very brief period and then slowing down immediately, pretty much immediately after. It is just a very rough item. If you get a very big stack, yes, it's good. If you have a decent stack and something like a Forgive Me Please, where it's constantly activating your on-kill effects, yeah, it's a good movement speed item. More often than not, the second I get this, I want to get rid of it. It just feels bad to play with. I'd say if they kept the speed boost around for something like 4 seconds or something like that, maybe it's a bit more of a play, but 1 second is way too short. More often than not, like if you're running around and mobbing, the speed boost will kind of hit you unexpectedly, and it has actually sent me over the edge of a stage before because I just like straight up did not know I was going to get a speed boost, and I started running twice as fast as I normally do. And yeah, it kind of sucks. So Harpoon, instant scrap, no thank you, goodbye. After that, we have the Ignition Tank. Ignition Tank is a very I guess circumstantial item. I'm gonna put Ignition Tank in B tier just because of, if you're able to take advantage of the situation where Ignition Tank works, it is a very good item. Ignition Tank will deal an additional 300% damage for any time that you're burning an enemy. So as you can see there, that's kind of the circumstance you need to be in. You need to be able to burn an enemy, so that means you need to have a gasoline, you need to have a molten perforator, or you need to be Artificer. These are the ways you can burn enemies. Also, it works with the Molotov equipment as well. It's very good in those circumstances. Oh, I should also mention it does work with the blazing aspect as well. If you have a stack of ignition tanks and a blazing aspect, it is insanely powerful. This allows you to pump damage. Again, if I'm playing Artificer, this is one of my most sought after green items. But outside of this situation, it's literally worthless. It doesn't do anything for you if you don't have any of these items to allow you to burn enemies. It does stack linearly, so an additional 300% per stack. So even a small stack of these is going to deal a lot of damage for you. So ignition tank, a very powerful item in the right situation, but that situation isn't always going to be the easiest to come by. It's easy to get gasoline, so you can almost always get that benefit. But again, it's kind of like a take it or leave it. You could be spending it on better green items if you want to scrap these. That's totally understandable. But in certain situations, extremely good item. It's a solid middle of the road item, B tier. Okay, up next, we got Regen Scrap. And Regen Scrap, I'm a little torn between S and A tier here. It's kind of teetering on the edge. I'm going to go S tier just because of its utility. What Regen Scrap does, it allows you to buy items from a green tier printer. And it consumes the scrap, and then that scrap comes back when you enter the next stage. This is obviously very good in later stages where green printers are much easier to come by. It's also very helpful for rounding out your stacks when you're going to purchase items from the soup at the moon before you go to mithrix. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a way to get more items reliably. So an item is always a good item. So that's why it is an S tier. Again, there's really not too much detail to go in here. It's a very straightforward item. Okay, up next, we got the shipping request form. I'm gonna make the shipping request form, you know what, I'll put it in B tier. I was gonna make it a C tier, but that's gonna go against what I literally just said. This is another item. Basically what this does is when you have it, it will drop a little cache somewhere on the stage, kind of similar to a lockbox that contains 2 items. You get to select one of those items unless if you have an executive card, in which case you can take both of them. Again, just a free item or a free 2 items per stage. It's not going to move the needle too much in most cases. It should be said that if you stack these, it does increase the rarity of the items. So at base, it's a 79% chance for that item to be a white item, a 20% chance to be a green, and a 1% to get a red. But more stacks of these items will increase the chances of it being a green or a red. It is just another good way to get more items in your loadout. More items are good. That's the entire point behind this game, is to get more items to get stronger. So it's a powerful item. It's a little annoying that you gotta go find the item, but it is what it is. And again, very straightforward, not much needs to be said. B tier. Up next, we have the Shuriken. I'm gonna put this in A tier. Shuriken's a solid damage item. This activates when you're using your primary skill. It will throw, when there's a stack available, it will throw your Shuriken that deals 400% damage. That increases by 100% per stack of this item. And you can hold up to 3 Shurikens, which reload over 10 seconds. That also increases by 1 stack per stack of this item. So this is just a good item to deal extra damage kind of passively. Pretty much everyone uses their primary ability constantly, and this is just a way to throw out more damage onto the field. I find it very helpful too for melee characters. If I don't want to get close to a situation, I can take a step back and just spam my primary and look at the target I'm trying to hit. It's a good way to get damage on an enemy that I don't want to go and engage with up close with a melee. So that's a very good way to use this item as well. It can also proc your band, so that's also a nice little thing for this item too. It's a pretty solid A tier all around, I'd say. Just more damage, and I would consider it passive damage because it is just off of using your primary. So that's a pretty good item to have. All right, going into the red items, and man, this is a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to effectiveness, usefulness, whatever you want to say. It is interesting. We're gonna start off with Ben's Raincoat. This used to be a much more powerful item. But I'm gonna put Ben's Raincoat in C tier. Yeah, this item can save your butt. It definitely can. I'm not doubting it. What it does, it prevents one debuff, and instead it grants you a barrier for 10% of your maximum health, and it recharges every 5 seconds. This is great if you once again are kind of caught off guard and you get hit by like a blazing enemy, or if you get caught in like a grandparent's big burning aura. It can give you a little bit of extra time to get out of there without dying. The fact that it only does one debuff, or prevents one debuff per stack of this item, it's not all that effective. It'll save you once, but it won't save you twice. So that's why it's a C tier. It's, for me, compared to other red items in this game, this kind of teeters between C tier and instant scrap, because if I can trade up for a different red item or even a stack of white items in the soup, I would probably take that. It doesn't have really too much usefulness in the mithrix fight, besides it does prevent you getting anchored by his attacks. Like you'll be slowed. That will save you from that, but that's really about it. On the moon, it prevents the perfected debuff essentially, but that's really about it. It's a pretty mid red item, so C tier I feel is appropriate. Up next is Bottled Chaos, and I'm also going to put Bottled Chaos in the C tier. This for me is also one that I wouldn't mind parting ways with if given the option. What it does is when you activate your equipment, it will also proc another random equipment. To me, this is really only useful when you desperately need a pillar skip to get up to mithrix and you weren't able to get an eccentric vase. I will just stand there and spam my equipment to hopefully get an eccentric vase to get me up there. But other than that, this can actually be a little disorienting, because while there is like a set rotation of equipment that this item selects from when it's randomizing the equipment that's going to be proc, there is stuff like volcanic egg in there where you're like trying to, like, say you just have, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something. Say you have like a royal capacitor and you just want to use a royal capacitor, you hit royal capacitor, and then all of a sudden you're an egg and you're flying like away from the stage or whatever. Stuff like that's just disorienting. It's not really worth your trouble. It does provide you additional damage, again, because you're proccing more than one equipment. And I should also say that the more stacks of this you get, the more equipment is getting procced on every proc. So you could feasibly have like 5 equipments going off at once by the use of one. It's kind of a novelty item, but again, pretty mid when you're considering red items, so C tier. I would honestly scrap this and trade up for something better. After that, we have the laser scope, and the laser scope, it's between C and B. I'm gonna put it in B because in most cases, you should, by the time you get to mithrix, have some sort of crit on your build, whether that's through crit goggles, whether that's through predatory instincts or harvester scythe. You should have a way to have crit. What this does is it doubles the damage of crit. It gives you an additional 100% damage, and that's an additional 100% per stack every time you crit. The downfall of this item is, and what makes it probably a B tier and not an A tier for me, and it makes it almost teeter on C tier for me, is that this is one of the only items that interacts with crit that does not give you crit. Stuff like predatory instincts and harvester scythe will give you 5% crit chance when you have that item in your inventory, and obviously the crit goggles give you 10%. This gives you no additional chance to crit. So if you have no crit on your kit, this item is pretty much useless. But assuming that most runs go the way they go, you will have crit in your build, and this will be benefiting you quite a bit in the damage department when you have it. So that's why it's in the B tier. I'd say if it gave you like a 10% or even a 5% crit, it would be in the A tier, because at least it can help itself out by giving you crit. But because of that, I kind of have to dock it, so that's why it is in the B tier. All right, now we're getting into the fun red items here, starting with the pocket I.C.B.M. It's between S and A tier for me. I have so much fun with this. I'm gonna put this in A tier just because you can find yourself in a situation where you don't get any usefulness from this item. What this does is it will pretty much triple your rockets. This works with items like Bundle of Fireworks, ATG. If you're Engineer, his rockets, his ability also benefits from this as well. It just gives you way more rocket damage, and with ATGs that also increases the proc chance because ATGs can proc stuff as well. Very good damage item. It also scales by, it doesn't give you any more missiles when you get more than one stack of this. Instead, what it does is it increases your missile damage by an additional 50% per stack of this item. But it also works with the disposable missile launcher equipment. So yes, it is a very good item for damage. Instant pickup for me. Very rarely am I scrapping this because usually if I'm not getting ATGs and I have this item, I will just buy a bunch of drones and get some fireworks hopefully, and just as soon as those suckers go down in the mithrix fight, I'm picking those up, and that's a bunch of extra damage on the field. So pocket I.C.B.M, solid A tier. And then up next we have the Symbiotic Scorpion. I'm gonna put this in, this is another one that teeters between S and A tier for me. I'm probably gonna, you know what, I'll do S tier for this. What this does is every time you hit an enemy, this is a 100% proc chance. It will reduce that enemy's armor by 2. Every stack you get of this is an additional 2 armor. It does on hit, and this is a permanent debuff on the enemy until they are dead. This is a very good item to help you ramp up damage. It basically weakens your enemies. It's kind of like a supercharged Shattering Justice. It's a Shattering Justice that doesn't have a ceiling. It can just keep going. And yeah, it is a very powerful item, especially for bossing, because obviously those enemies are on the field longer, so the stacks can get higher and it is more effective. So yeah, S tier. Pretty easy S tier. And then probably my favorite, one of my favorite red items in the entire game, we have the spare drone parts. This is a no doubter S tier. What the I almost called it Colonel Drone Man. We'll get into that in a second. What the spare drone parts do is it gives you a drone called Colonel Drone Man, and then along with that, all of your drones gain an additional 50% attack speed and cooldown reduction. They also gain a 10% chance to fire a missile on hit that deals 300% damage. And it also gives you all your drones, even your health drones, a chain gun, so all your drones become killing machines. This is a very, very overpowered, you know what? Yeah, I'll call it overpowered item, because the second you get this, and honestly, this is the reason why I always want to just be buying drones, because if this item shows up later in a run for me and I already have an army of drones, I'm pretty much set to win the run. It does so much damage. You can pretty much take your hands off of the controller and your drones will do all of the work for you. It doesn't stack all that well. It only stacks in the attack speed per stack of this. It gives you an additional 50% attack speed and cooldown reduction. So basically they just fire faster. But I mean, turning every drone on the field into a very powerful weapon is a very good thing to have. No question to why it's in the S tier. It's one of the best damage items in the game. All right, and now time for the lone boss item, and that is the Defense Nucleus. I'm probably gonna be putting the Defense Nucleus in, man, you know what, because we technically can't instant scrap anything else on this list, we're gonna put it in instant scrap because I just don't like this item. So what this does is when you kill an elite, it will spawn a alpha construct, which are those little like triangle or like pyramid dudes that sit in the map with like the little shield around them, that deal 300% damage and have 300% health. Only 4 can be on the field at a time, plus 4 per stack of this. This item is really only good for drawing aggro, and I guess it does technically buff empathy cores if that's another boss item that you have, because it does count as allies when you have these on the field. So like that's really the only usefulness. Other than that, it's really just a pointless boss item. Half the time these guys aren't even doing damage, they're just sitting in their shields doing nothing. They just kind of tank damage, again drawing aggro away from you, but that is really the only thing that does. If there's another boss item printer, pretty much any other boss item in the game, I'm gonna be trading up for it, so it's an instant scrap for me. It's kind of a no-brainer. All right, now we're going into the void items. So the void items are interesting because you cannot scrap them, so therefore we cannot put any of these items into the instant scrap category. Again, these will be ranked based on their usefulness in Eclipse 8. So yeah, let's get into it, starting with the Clover alternative, which is the Benthic Bloom. This for me, for Eclipse 8, is C tier. This is a novelty item in my opinion. It's fun to play with if you are just trying to have fun. But if you're trying to win, I don't recommend this. This will corrupt your 57 leaf clover. So right there, that's a huge knock against it, because I mean, you can't get clovers anymore, and that's kind of a big deal. You want a clover above all else. Instead of giving you the pretty much double luck, the Benthic Bloom will upgrade 3 of your items randomly per stage. So essentially, if you keep looping with this, all your items will end up being red, like legendary tier items. So again, that's why it's fun. It's kind of a fun little roll the dice thing. So I'm not denying that there is a lot of fun to be had with this item, but you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot with this item on Eclipse. I would maybe, if I don't have a clover, I would maybe consider picking it up if it dropped for me on stage 5 right before I go to the moon. What you do with this is basically run the risk of getting rid of very important base items or common items that you need to, that's like basically the foundation of your run. This very much hinders your ability to have movement speed, because like obviously it's going to be taking common items and turning them into green items. So like stuff like energy drinks, goat hoofs, mochas, those could all be lost to this item. Obviously you're going to mithrix, so you don't have too much more time to loot, so you may not ever get those items back, and that's a huge detriment. Also, good damage items like crit goggles, tri-tip daggers, all these things can go away. And then same with the green tier, you could be losing stuff like ATGs and ukes, and yeah, they're turning into red items, but I mean, in a lot of cases, you'd probably rather have those ATG ukes and bands, you know? So yeah, that's why it's really low for me for the void items. It's a lot of fun. If you're just messing around, absolutely pick one of these up. It's kind of a fun little challenge. But yeah, as far as usefulness for Eclipse, I put it pretty low on this list. Encrusted Key. I will be putting Encrusted Key on the, I guess, the A tier. What this does is, I mean, it's replacing the rusted key, and instead of a rusted lockbox that will give you either a green or a red item, this will give you the choice between 3 void items when you find the lockbox on the next stage from where you pick it up. This is a very good way to get higher tier void items without having to open up void pods or find void pods. It's pretty much a guaranteed power spike in most cases. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's just a way to get more power. Don't really have to explain too much more. It's just a solid item all around. I would personally wait to open up the void lockbox until you can get a second key, so that way you can just keep rolling and gain a free void item per stage instead of just doing the one and done, because as soon as this stack goes away, you can pick up a rusted key again and it will just be a rusted key. You will not get an encrusted key. So yeah, that's my advice to you. But yeah, very solid void item. Encrusted Key belongs in A tier. Up next, we have the Lost Seer's lenses. This replaces your crit goggles, and that's probably why this is a no-brainer for why this is going in the C tier. So obviously what the crit glasses do for you is a 10% chance to basically deal double damage. That's what a crit is per stack. And what Lost Seer's lenses do is your attacks now have a 0.5%, so 0.5%. It does stack linearly at 0.5% per stack to instantly kill a non-boss enemy, and that's kind of the big thing here. If you could instant kill boss enemies, this would probably be much higher on my list, but this is only for non-boss enemies, and we are going to kill mithrix, so therefore this item is completely useless against mithrix. So that's why this is something that I pretty much avoid at all costs when I'm playing Eclipse. Going for a mithrix kill, you're pretty much getting rid of the ability to do double damage on a percentage of your hits. Is it good for mobbing? Sure, especially if you're able to get a decent amount of stacks, or if you have really high attack speed. Yes, it's a good mobbing. It can get rid of a lot of problems pretty fast if you have a decent size stack of this, but for boss fights, it is literally useless, so that's why it is in the C tier. Up next, we have the Lysate Cell, and I will be putting Lysate Cell, yeah, I will put it in B tier. This is very character dependent on how useful this item is. The Lysate Cell adds an additional stack of your special skill and reduces your special skill cooldown by 33%. This corrupts the fuel cell, so you can no longer get additional stacks of your equipment. Certain characters definitely take full advantage of having more special skills. Some notable features of this is stuff like Engineer. You can place a third turret down with this. I wouldn't try to stack these with Engineer because you can only do 3 turrets. I guess it gives you the ability to just keep spamming turrets if they're constantly getting destroyed, but there's that. Stuff like Commando's grenades, or so it's just more stacks of skills. It just really, again, it depends on the character and how useful your special skill is, or if it's even something that can stack. Like, this is useless on a character like Captain, where his special skill is his beacons. You can't stack those, so therefore a Lysate Cell is actually pointless. You much rather have a fuel cell. It's in the middle of the road because each character, it's a very different situation, so that's why it sits at B tier. After that, we have Needletick. This corrupts the tri-tip daggers. I'm going to be putting the Needletick in A tier. This is another one that's kind of based on the character you're playing and really how fast they can attack. This is great for low attack speed characters, so pretty much anything that's like melee, so like Loader, Acrid, characters that can't put stacks on very quickly. If you have a very fast attack speed character, you know, stuff like Multi with the nail gun, Commando, stuff like that, you could argue keeping tri-tip daggers is going to be more effective. What Needletick does is for every stack you get 10% chance to collapse an enemy for 400% base damage, which is more damage than tri-tip dagger, but this also does all of its damage at once, whereas you can probably be more efficient with getting a very large stack of bleed on an enemy over a period of time. This is a good damage item. There's really not too much more to discuss on it. Yeah, the collapse for 400% is very powerful. This does have a max amount of stacks for its effectiveness. Once you get 10 of these, you don't need any more because every hit you do will be applying collapse to the enemy. So yes, a very good damage item. Again, I would just kind of, more often than not, I will be picking up Needletick. It really, regardless of the character. There's just, I don't know, if I didn't have one, I had a good stack of tri-tip daggers and a lot of attack speed on a character like Commando, I would maybe consider just keeping it as is and not picking up the Needletick. But that's really about it. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to pick up Needletick. So it's a pretty easy A tier. All right, and now time for the one boss item. And this is a newly hatched Zoea. This is in the C tier. Just because of the damage this can do to your loadout if you pick this up when you're cruising with something like a Shatter Spleen or a Perforator or anything like that. This corrupts every yellow item in the game. Every boss item. This also includes stuff like pearls. Yeah, it can do a lot of damage, and all it does is it gives you a little void buddy. It gives you a void ally. This, I guess you can argue, can be pretty powerful because it can give you any void ally, so that also means stuff like jailers, reavers. It's not just like the void turret. If it was a void turret, I'd say stay away from this at all times. So at least the enemy or the allies that the game gives you is kind of cool, but at the expense of all your boss items, I'd say this is kind of a throw of an item to pick up. And most times you don't really have a choice. I mean, I don't think this item actually drops from anything. I could be wrong. I don't know if you can actually get this to drop. The only way to acquire this is through a Pluripotent Larva, which we'll get to in a little bit. Yeah, to me, it's a throw. I avoid this if I can, and in most cases, I do. So yeah, that's that's the newly hatched Zoea. A pointless waste of time. All right, up next is Plasma Shrimp, and this is going right up into the S tier. This replaces the ATGs. Even though this is in the S tier, there are some situations where I do avoid this. I'll get into that in just a second. So what this item does, again, replaces your ATGs. You get a shield that, while the shield is active, pretty much actually every hit you do will spawn what's basically a missile that does 40% damage, and that stacks linearly for an additional 40% per stack of this. So a little bit of skill is needed to keep that shield up. If I get this, I immediately start going for shield generators, or if I can get the Transcendence Lunar item to make all of my health bar a shield, that's usually a good play for this as well. Yeah, it's just a lot of extra damage, and you don't have to worry about proc chance because it procs on every hit. The situations where I will avoid this is if I have a decent stack of ATGs already and I happen to have a clover. That would be the one instance where I would avoid this, because the ATGs do more damage. The normal ATGs do more damage per missile, and if I'm proccing them constantly because of my clover, there's not really a reason to trade up. 9 times out of 10, I'm taking this item. It's a very easy choice to make. So yeah, S tier, very good damage item. Up next, we have the Pluripotent Larva. This replaces the Dios best friend. I'm gonna put this in B tier. Obviously, it's an extra life, which is good. The catch with it though is that when it is consumed, any item in your inventory that can turn into a void item will turn into a void item. So this can screw you over in some cases. Like, again, if you have a really good stack of crit, guess what? Those are now Lost Seer's lenses, and you cannot crit the bosses anymore. So stuff like that, it can be a bit of a throw, but it is an extra life. I will kind of look at this item based on the situation I'm in. If I see it and like I don't have any crit in my inventory, or I don't have any bands in my inventory, I'll pick it up. Or if I have items that I want to turn into void items like ATGs or ukuleles, and I don't have those other items I just mentioned, I will pick this up and just go die and convert, and then I'm good to go about my run for the rest of the time. These are all kind of like ways you can play this item. It can be a throw, especially in the Eclipse, it can be a throw, but it also gives you an extra life. It gives you a second chance for players that are getting used to the Eclipse experience. This is a pretty good item to have. So yeah, it's the middle of the road for me, B tier. It depends so much on the situation and the items I already have. Up next, we have the Polylute, and Polylute is probably the easiest S tier on the entire list here. Yeah, Polylute, instead, it corrupts all of the ukuleles. Instead of it chaining damage, it becomes a single target item, and a very good one at that. This gives you a 25% chance to fire lightning for 60% total damage up to 3 times, and that's an additional 3 times per stack. Basically, it's a guaranteed 180% damage every time this procs. It's a good item, very good for bossing, very good for mithrix. If you're able to get a decent stack of these, it's just non-stop procs. It's fun to watch proc too, because there's a bunch of little explosions on the enemy. It's a very satisfying item. It's just a lot more damage. Not too much more to say on that. So yeah, pretty easy S tier. Up next we have Safer Spaces, and I'm kind of weighing between S and A. I think I will put this in S tier as well. This will corrupt your tougher times. This is just pretty much another similar to the Opal that we had earlier in this video, a get out of jail free card. Instead of reducing damage by giving you armor, this just straight up blocks the damage, and it is then on a timer. It recharges after 15 seconds, but that gets reduced by 10% per stack. So if you get a big enough stack of this, you can be constantly blocking damage. It takes away the RNG of tougher times and just puts it on a timer. So, and you can tell when it's up to because you have a bubble around you. So it's a lot more predictable and readable. Yes, it's a very good item. Damage mitigation is a huge part of being successful in Eclipse, and this is probably the best, if not the best item for it. So yes, pretty easy S tier. It also should be said that this helps you loot more void items, because every time you have to open up a void pod, it takes away 50% of your health bar, which in Eclipse kind of sucks because that also applies the Eclipse 8 buff, or debuff rather, to you. So that kind of sucks if you gotta open up a handful. Before you know it, you're losing a good portion of your health bar. Hitting the void pod with this active completely takes that away. You take no damage. You can just take the item and go about your day. So that's another little useful thing for it. So yeah, pretty easy S tier. Up next is Singularity Band, and it's between B and C tier for me. I'm probably gonna go C tier. So Singularity Band will replace both Ronald's and Kajaro's bands. The best, arguably the two best single target damage items in the game. So obviously that is a huge knock against this. This has the effect of, it procs the same way as bands, is when you deal 400% damage and the stack is active, it will fire a black hole that draws enemies in. That's kind of the gimmick with this. It draws enemies into its little radius, and then it collapses, dealing 100% damage, which is an additional 100% per stack, and it recharges every 20 seconds, and there is no cooldown reduction with this item either. So in comparison to the normal bands, this is a huge step back in my opinion. Yeah, you get that nice little AoE kind of effect with it, but it also takes away like all the usefulness in it being a damage item. So the only time I would ever pick this up is if, say, I was on stage 5 and I had yet to pull a single band. Then I would probably pick this up just to say, you know what, at least it's something. If I have a band in my inventory, I avoid this at all costs. So that's why it is in the C tier. Tentabauble is next. I will place Tentabauble in the A tier. Tentabauble is going to replace all of your Chronobaubles. Instead of slowing down the enemies, it will root the enemies in place, and this also works on mithrix, and that's why this is in the A tier. Especially for someone learning the fight, there is nothing better than being able to just stop mithrix dead in his tracks. Like, he cannot move. It allows you to pretty much keep him in place and spam damage on him, do stuff that may not work as well when he's moving around, stuff like proccing bands or doing stuff like a royal capacitor. Just holds them in place to make it much easier to do damage. That's the main reason why it's an A tier. Obviously it's good because all other enemies can get rooted when you're hitting them with this item. So yes, across the board it's useful because it stops enemies from pursuing you, but it's an A tier because it can stop mithrix dead in its tracks. It's a 5% proc chance plus 5% per stack to root an enemy for 1 second. It should also be noted that it's an additional 1 second per stack. So yes, it's a very good item to have, especially for players that are still like learning the mithrix fight. This is, to me, a very underrated void item. After that, we have the Voidsent Flame. This is one that I need to I'll go B tier on this, and you know what, it really tiers between B and C in my mind, or in my heart I should say. This is an A tier item because I just like how flashy it is. It's a fun item to play with. This corrupts the Will-o'-the-wisps, and what it does is instead of having the explosion on the enemy death, it does it when the enemy is at full health, and it does chain around. The explosion is 12 meters in radius. It does an additional 2.4 meters per stack, and it does 260% damage, an additional 156% per stack. So it does hit pretty hard. It should also be noted that the cool little synergy with this item is that you can pair this with crowbars to amp the damage up significantly. It's not very useful on stuff like Mithrix because obviously as soon as he's not at 100% health, it's pointless. Kind of same with bosses. But I will argue also it's very good for bosses, for like teleporter fights, because if you hit the ads around the boss, it will chain that damage up to him. So it is, yes, it is for me probably one of the better mobbing items in the game, or at least for me the most fun mobbing item in the game. Outside of that, its usefulness outside of the first hit on an enemy is actually nothing. So that's why it's in B tier. Again, me personally, I would put it in A tier. I kind of love this item, but if we're looking at this for just effectiveness, especially in Eclipse, it's gonna be B tier. And our final item for today is the Weeping Fungus. This will be going into A tier because besides Engineer, which even that I can argue is not the case, and his turrets, this is way better than the Bustling Fungus that it replaces. Instead of standing still to spawn a aura to heal in, which again, I'll say this in all my tier list videos, or any advice I'll give, you should never be standing still in this game. This game is all about movement. This allows you to heal while sprinting, which is the right thing to do in this game. You should always be moving. This heals for 2% damage, an additional 2% per stack for every second while you are sprinting. So a very potent health item, a very good way to heal up after you've been hit and you're just trying to get away from a situation. Probably one of the, if not the best healing item in the game. And it replaces one of the worst healing items in the game. So that is why it is a pretty easy A tier. You know what? We're calling it Audible. This one's an S tier. It is actually just that good. It's very helpful. It's something that once you have it, you don't think too much about it, but it's always helping you. So you know what? It's an S tier. But yeah, guys, that will do it for this tier list. What do you guys think? I'm always open to hearing what you guys think about this, where I went wrong, where you think I went wrong. I'm pretty confident with this list. This was definitely much nicer than the base item list that took me forever to record, and man, I was so done with talking with that one. This is the DLCs are much nicer. The smaller loot pools treats me very well. But yeah, guys, tell me what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video or you found it helpful, I invite you to leave a like. It's super helpful for me and the channel if you like the video, and if you want to see more Risk of Rain content like this or gameplays as well, please be sure to subscribe. We stream twice a week. Most of the time it's Risk of Rain. Sometimes we'll do other roguelites like Mega Bonk or whatever else is going on in that space. But yeah, I welcome you to subscribe as well. But yeah, until next time, have a wonderful day.